In a galaxy far beyond the reach of human imagination, where stars shimmered like scattered diamonds and planets floated as if held by invisible strings, there existed a kingdom unlike any other. The kingdom of Lyri was ruled by an ancient dynasty of alien beings known as the Valens, ethereal creatures with luminous skin that shimmered in hues of violet and silver. Their society thrived on order, tradition, and a strict code of conduct, ensuring harmony across their vast empire. But beneath this polished exterior lay secrets buried deep within the cosmos. At the heart of this tale stood Princess Leora, the youngest heir to the throne. She was not just beautiful but radiant, a vision of grace with flowing hair that seemed woven from stardust and eyes so large they appeared to hold entire galaxies within them. Her presence commanded awe wherever she went, yet her spirit yearned for something more than the gilded cage of royal obligations. Unlike her kin, who revered discipline above all else, Leora possessed a curious mind, always seeking answers beyond what the stars could offer. Then there was Captain Dax Callan, a human soldier whose arrival in the Valen realm had been nothing short of accidental, or perhaps fated. A drifter at heart, Dax had spent years navigating the perilous edges of space as part of Earth's interstellar defense force. His rugged charm contrasted sharply with the refined elegance of the Valens, his sun-kissed skin and piercing green eyes marking him as an outsider even before he opened his mouth. Yet it wasn't just his appearance that set him apart. It was his unyielding sense of justice and an insatiable thirst for freedom that made him both feared and admired. Their worlds collided during one of Lyri's grand celestial festivals, an event celebrated every decade under the alignment of 3 moons. As dignitaries from neighboring systems gathered to witness the spectacle, Dax found himself stranded after his ship malfunctioned near the planet's orbit. Captured by the Royal Guard, he expected imprisonment or worse. Instead, fate intervened when Princess Leora stumbled upon him while wandering through the palace gardens, escaping the suffocating formality of the festivities. From the moment their eyes met, time seemed to stand still. For Leora, it was as though the universe itself conspired to bring them together, igniting a spark she hadn't realized she'd been missing. And for Dax, who had grown weary of endless battles and lonely voyages, meeting the princess felt like finding shelter amidst a storm. Despite knowing the dangers of such a connection, the laws forbidding interspecies relationships, the wrath of the Royal Council, they couldn't resist the pull drawing them closer. As days turned into weeks, their bond deepened, fueled by stolen moments in hidden corridors and whispered conversations about dreams neither dared voice aloud. They shared stories of their lives. Leora spoke of the weight of expectation pressing down on her shoulders, while Dax recounted tales of Earth's blue skies and the simple joys he missed. Together, they discovered solace in each other's company, their differences becoming strengths rather than barriers. But love, especially forbidden love, rarely goes unnoticed. Rumors began to spread like wildfire through the opulent halls of the palace. Servants whispered behind closed doors, guards exchanged knowing glances, and soon enough, the king himself took notice. What started as curiosity turned into suspicion, then outright fury. To the Valen monarchy, Dax represented everything they sought to suppress: chaos, unpredictability, and defiance of their sacred traditions. Thus began a dangerous game of cat and mouse. With every step they took toward each other, the walls around them tightened. Soldiers patrolled the grounds more frequently, surveillance increased tenfold, and the once safe havens where they met became traps waiting to ensnare them. Still, neither Leora nor Dax could let go. Their love burned brighter than ever, a flame refusing to be extinguished no matter how fierce the winds grew. And so, as tensions escalated and the kingdom prepared to act against the pair, Leora leaned close to Dax one night, trembling despite her regal composure. "We are surrounded, human," she whispered, her voice barely audible over the hum of distant starlight. "Now what's next?" Dax gripped her hand tightly, his resolve unwavering. He knew they couldn't stay hidden forever, but running wasn't a solution either, not when the stakes were this high. Yet, looking into Leora's luminous eyes, he also knew one thing for certain: whatever came next, they would face it together. The first sign of trouble came on a moonlit evening, when the air was thick with the scent of blooming lumina flowers. Leora and Dax had planned to meet in the secluded observatory tower, a place where they often shared quiet moments away from prying eyes. But as Dax approached, he noticed something amiss, a faint shimmer in the air, almost imperceptible unless you were looking for it. It was a cloaking device, one of the advanced technologies used by the Royal Guard to monitor suspicious activity. Cursing under his breath, He ducked into the shadows, his instincts screaming that danger was near. Leora arrived moments later, her usual grace replaced by hurried steps and darting eyes. She glanced around nervously before spotting Dax crouched behind a marble pillar. "They're watching us," she whispered, her voice trembling. "I overheard Father speaking with the High Council. They know about us, Dax. They've known for weeks." Dax clenched his jaw, his mind racing. "Then we need to move. Now." He grabbed her hand, pulling her deeper into the labyrinthine halls of the palace. They moved swiftly, avoiding the main corridors and sticking to lesser-used passages. Every sound, the clink of armor, the murmur of voices, sent their hearts pounding harder. Their escape attempt was interrupted when they rounded a corner and nearly collided with two guards. One of them raised his weapon, a sleek plasma rifle humming with lethal energy. "Halt!" he barked, his tone leaving no room for negotiation. Without hesitation, Dax shoved Leora behind him and lunged forward, tackling the nearest guard. The second guard hesitated, clearly unprepared for such aggression. Leora seized the opportunity, using her knowledge of the palace's secret mechanisms to trigger a trapdoor beneath the second guard's feet. He disappeared with a startled cry, leaving them a brief window to flee. Panting, they sprinted down a spiral staircase leading to the underground reservoirs. The cool mist rising from the water slowed their pursuers momentarily, but they could hear shouts echoing behind them. "There's a maintenance tunnel here," Leora said, pointing to a narrow opening partially concealed by moss. "It leads outside the city walls." "After you," Dax replied, keeping watch as she slipped through the gap. He followed closely, the sound of boots pounding against stone growing louder. Once inside the tunnel, they crawled on hands and knees, the damp earth clinging to their clothes. The confined space amplified every noise, making each breath feel like thunder in their ears. Finally, they emerged into the dense forests surrounding the capital city. Towering trees with bioluminescent leaves cast eerie shadows on the ground, and the air buzzed with the calls of nocturnal creatures. For a moment, they allowed themselves to catch their breath, leaning against a tree trunk as adrenaline coursed through their veins. "We can't stop," Leora said, her voice steadier now. "They'll send trackers after us. We need to keep moving." Dax nodded, scanning their surroundings. "Where do we go? You know this planet better than I do." "There's a village on the outskirts," she explained. "A place where the royal influence is weaker. If we can reach it, we might find allies." With renewed determination, they pressed onward, weaving through the forest as dawn began to break. The golden light filtering through the canopy brought both relief and dread. While it illuminated their path, it also exposed them to potential threats. Every rustle of leaves, every distant call of a bird, sent their nerves on edge. By midday, they reached the edge of the woods, where fields stretched out toward the horizon. In the distance, smoke curled lazily from chimneys, signaling the presence of the village Leora had mentioned. But before they could celebrate, a shadow passed overhead, a patrol ship scanning the area. "They're already ahead of us," Dax muttered, pulling Leora into the cover of tall grass. They watched as the ship hovered briefly before descending near the village. Soldiers poured out, their weapons drawn, and began questioning the villagers. "This changes things," Leora whispered, her expression grim. "If they've secured the village, we'll have to find another way." Dax studied her face, seeing the flicker of fear mixed with resolve. "You trust these people?" he asked. "Enough to fight alongside us?" She hesitated, then nodded. "Some of them. Not everyone bows to the crown willingly." He grinned despite the gravity of their situation. "Then let's give them a reason to stand up." Together, they devised a plan. Using the natural terrain to their advantage, they circled around the village, staying low and avoiding detection. When they reached a vantage point overlooking the scene, Dax spotted a group of villagers being herded into a makeshift holding area. Among them was an elderly woman who looked strikingly familiar to Leora. "That's Elder Mira," she whispered urgently. "She's wise and respected. If anyone can rally the others, it's her." Dax nodded. "All right. Here's what we'll do." As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the land, chaos erupted. Dax fired a series of diversionary blasts, creating small explosions that scattered the soldiers' attention. Meanwhile, Leora slipped into the fray, rallying the villagers with a passionate speech that stirred their courage. The battle that followed was messy and chaotic, filled with moments of triumph and terror. Dax fought with the precision of a seasoned warrior, taking down enemies with calculated strikes, while Leora used her knowledge of diplomacy to turn some of the guards to their side. When the dust settled, the village stood united, its people ready to defy the crown. But the victory was bittersweet. Reinforcements would arrive soon, and their options were dwindling. As they regrouped, Leora turned to Dax, her eyes reflecting both hope and uncertainty. "What now?" she asked softly. He smiled, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "Whatever comes next, we'll face it together." The aftermath of the skirmish left both Leora and Dax physically drained but emotionally charged. As the villagers tended to their wounded and fortified the perimeter, the couple retreated to a quiet corner of the village square. Sitting side by side on a weathered bench, they allowed themselves a rare moment of stillness. The weight of what they had done, and what lay ahead, hung heavy in the air, yet there was an undeniable sense of solidarity between them. "You realize this makes you an outlaw," Dax said, breaking the silence. His tone was light, almost teasing, but his green eyes betrayed the seriousness of the situation. "Your father won't forgive rebellion like this." Leora sighed, her gaze fixed on the horizon where streaks of orange and pink painted the sky. "I stopped caring about forgiveness long ago," she admitted. "All my life, I've been told who to be, how to act, what to believe. And for what? To maintain an illusion of perfection while our people suffer under rules that no longer serve them." Her words carried a bitterness she rarely showed, revealing the depth of her frustration with the rigid structure of her world. Dax listened intently, sensing the vulnerability beneath her anger. "You're braver than you think," he said gently. "Most people wouldn't risk everything for change." She turned to look at him, her luminous eyes searching his face. "And most humans wouldn't risk everything for someone like me," she countered, a hint of humor softening her tone. "Tell me, Dax, why did you stay? You could have left when you had the chance." For a moment, he didn't answer, his thoughts drifting back to the countless moments they'd shared since their fateful meeting. "Because running isn't living," he finally replied. "Not really. Back on Earth, I spent years chasing orders, surviving instead of thriving. Then I met you, and suddenly, the universe didn't seem so cold anymore." His confession caught her off guard, and she laughed softly, shaking her head. "You humans are strange creatures. Always speaking your minds without filters. And you aliens are too busy hiding behind yours," he shot back with a grin. "But seriously, Leora, we're stronger together. Whatever happens next, we'll figure it out." Just then, Elder Mira approached, her frail frame supported by a wooden cane. Her wrinkled face bore signs of age, but her sharp eyes gleamed with wisdom. "Forgive the interruption," she said, bowing slightly to Leora before addressing them both. "Word has spread quickly about your actions today. Many are inspired, but many more are afraid. The king will not take this lightly." "We know," Leora responded, standing to meet the elder's gaze. "What do you suggest?" Mira hesitated, glancing at the assembled villagers who milled about nearby. "There is a sanctuary, a hidden refuge deep within the mountains. Few know its location, and fewer still have ventured there. If you can reach it, you may find allies willing to aid your cause." Dax frowned, skeptical. "How safe is it? We've seen how easily the royal forces mobilize." "It's not foolproof," Mira admitted, "but it's our best option. Besides, staying here invites disaster. More troops will arrive by morning." Leora nodded decisively. "Then we leave tonight. Gather whoever is willing to join us and prepare supplies. We'll need food, medicine, and anything else useful." As Mira shuffled away to relay the instructions, Dax leaned closer to Leora, lowering his voice. "Are you sure about this? Leading a rebellion isn't exactly part of the Princess Handbook." She smirked, nudging him playfully. "Maybe not, but improvisation is key to survival, isn't it?" He chuckled, unable to resist her infectious optimism. Fair point. Just promise me one thing. If we make it through this, you owe me dinner on a real planet someday. Deal, she agreed, her smile widening. But only if you promise to teach me how to cook something edible. Their banter provided a fleeting reprieve from the tension building around them. By nightfall, the village bustled with activity as preparations for their departure unfolded. Supplies were packed, routes mapped, and roles assigned. Though uncertainty loomed large, a newfound sense of purpose united the group. For the first time, Leora felt truly alive, her decisions driven not by duty but by conviction. As they set out under the cover of darkness, guided by the faint glow of bioluminescent flora, Dax couldn't help but marvel at the resilience of those walking beside them. Each villager carried their own story of hardship and hope, bound together by a shared desire for freedom. And at the center of it all stood Leora, her radiant presence lighting the way. Yet, even as they journeyed deeper into the unknown, neither could shake the feeling that greater challenges awaited. The mountains ahead promised sanctuary, but they also harbored mysteries untold. Somewhere beyond the peaks, forces aligned against them plotted their downfall. But for now, they marched forward, hearts ablaze with determination. We're going to need more than luck, Dax murmured, glancing at Leora as they trudged uphill. Good thing we've got each other, she replied, squeezing his hand. And maybe a little bit of madness. The ascent into the mountains proved grueling, testing the limits of even the hardiest among them. Jagged cliffs loomed overhead, their icy peaks glittering ominously under the pale light of Lyrie's twin moons. The air grew thinner with every step, forcing the group to move slower than anticipated. Despite the biting cold and treacherous terrain, morale remained surprisingly high, bolstered by the camaraderie forged during their escape from the village. Leora walked alongside Dax, her breath visible in frosty puffs as she navigated the uneven ground. Though exhaustion tugged at her limbs, she refused to show weakness, knowing her strength inspired others. Occasionally, she paused to check on stragglers or share encouraging words with those struggling to keep pace. Her leadership style was subtle yet effective, blending authority with compassion in a way that earned her unwavering loyalty. "You're doing great," Dax said, noticing the warmth in her interactions. "They trust you completely." She shrugged modestly, though pride flickered in her eyes. "They've trusted me since the beginning. I'm just trying to honor that faith." As they climbed higher, the landscape transformed dramatically. Snow blanketed the rocky paths, and eerie silence enveloped them, broken only by the crunch of boots against frozen earth. It was here, amidst the desolation, that they encountered their first obstacle, a massive crevasse spanning the width of the trail. Its depths were shrouded in darkness, rendering it impossible to gauge how far down it dropped. "Well, this complicates things," Dax muttered, peering over the edge. He turned to Leora, raising an eyebrow. "Got any secret princess powers that include leaping chasms?" She rolled her eyes, smirking despite herself. "Unfortunately, no. But I do have an idea." Summoning several villagers skilled in engineering, she directed them to construct a makeshift bridge using fallen logs and sturdy vines harvested from nearby trees. The process was slow and labor-intensive, requiring teamwork and ingenuity. Dax pitched in, using his combat training to anchor the structure securely while others tested its stability. By the time they finished, dawn had begun to break, painting the sky in shades of lavender and gold. Crossing the bridge proved nerve-wracking, especially for those carrying heavy loads. One misstep could send someone plummeting into the abyss below. Yet, inch by cautious inch, the group made it across, cheering quietly once everyone reached solid ground. Their relief was short-lived. As they continued upward, a sudden gust of wind swept through the pass, carrying with it an unfamiliar scent, metallic and acrid. Dax froze, his instincts kicking in. "Do you smell that?" he asked, scanning the horizon. Leora sniffed the air, her brow furrowing. "It smells wrong. Like machines." Before they could investigate further, a low rumble echoed through the valley. From behind a ridge emerged a squadron of mechanized drones, their sleek forms glinting menacingly in the sunlight. Hovering silently, they locked onto the group with glowing red sensors. "Take cover," Dax shouted, pushing Leora behind a boulder as the drones unleashed a barrage of energy blasts. Chaos erupted as everyone scrambled for safety, the peaceful trek devolving into a desperate scramble for survival. Dax sprang into action, firing precise shots at the drones with his plasma pistol. Each hit caused sparks to fly, temporarily disabling their targets. Beside him, Leora wielded a crystalline staff gifted to her by Elder Mira, channeling bursts of energy that disrupted the drone systems. Together, they formed a formidable duo, buying precious time for the others to regroup. "Fall back," Leora called, her voice cutting through the din. "Retreat to the caves." The caves she referred to were natural formations carved into the mountainside, offering narrow tunnels that would hinder the larger drones. Following her command, the group retreated, ducking inside just as the drones attempted to pursue. The confined space worked to their advantage. The machines struggled to maneuver, their bulk scraping against jagged walls. Inside, the atmosphere shifted from panic to strategic planning. Dax and Leora conferred with the villagers, devising a counterattack. Using shards of reflective crystal found within the cave, they created makeshift mirrors designed to amplify sunlight and blind the drones. Armed with these tools, a small team ventured back outside to execute the plan. The operation required precision timing. As the drones hovered uncertainly near the cave entrance, the team positioned themselves strategically, angling the crystals to catch the rising sun. When the beams converged, a blinding flash engulfed the area, disorienting the machines. Seizing the opportunity, Dax led a charge, dismantling the disabled drones with swift efficiency. Though victorious, the encounter left them shaken. The drones' presence confirmed their fears. The royal forces were closing in, employing advanced technology to track them. Exhausted but resolute, they pressed onward, aware that every step brought them closer to the sanctuary, but also closer to confrontation. That evening, as they camped in a shallow alcove shielded from view, Leora sat beside Dax, staring into the flames of a small fire. "Do you ever wonder if we're fighting a losing battle?" she asked quietly, her voice tinged with doubt. He wrapped an arm around her shoulders, pulling her close. "Every day. But then I remember who I'm fighting for, and suddenly, it doesn't feel like losing anymore." She rested her head against him, finding comfort in his steady heartbeat. "Thank you, Dax. For believing in me. For staying." He kissed the top of her head, smiling despite the fatigue etched into his features. "Always." As sleep claimed them, the fire crackled softly, casting flickering shadows on the walls of their temporary refuge. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but for now, they savored the quiet strength of unity, a reminder that even in the darkest times, hope could burn as brightly as the stars above. The final stretch of their journey promised to be the most treacherous yet. According to Elder Myra's cryptic directions, the sanctuary lay nestled within a valley hidden behind a waterfall cascading from the highest peak. Reaching it required navigating a narrow ledge carved into the cliffside, a path so precarious that even the most experienced climbers hesitated to tread upon it. As dawn broke, painting the snow-capped mountains in hues of gold and rose, the group gathered at the base of the ascent, steeling themselves for what lay ahead. Leora stood at the forefront, her crystalline staff glowing faintly as if attuned to her resolve. She turned to address the weary travelers, her voice steady despite the fatigue evident in her posture. "This is it," she announced, her gaze sweeping over the faces of those who had entrusted her with their lives. "Beyond this ledge lies safety, a place where we can regroup, strategize, and prepare for what comes next. But I won't lie to you, it won't be easy. Stay focused, help each other, and trust that we are stronger together." Her words ignited a spark of determination among the villagers, who nodded in agreement. Dax stepped forward, positioning himself beside her. "Let's move," he urged, his tone firm but encouraging. "One step at a time." The climb began cautiously, with Leora leading the way. The ledge was slick with frost, its edges crumbling underfoot. Each step demanded concentration, forcing the group to rely on ropes and anchors fashioned from vines and metal scraps scavenged along the way. Dax stayed close to the rear, ensuring no one fell behind. His keen eyes scanned the horizon, wary of any signs of pursuit. So far, the drones had not reappeared, but the absence of immediate danger only heightened his unease. Halfway across the ledge, disaster struck. A young boy, barely 10 cycles old, lost his footing and slipped, dangling precariously over the abyss. His mother screamed, reaching for him but unable to close the distance. Without hesitation, Dax lunged forward, grabbing the boy's wrist just as his grip faltered. The weight pulled him dangerously close to the edge, but he gritted his teeth, anchoring himself with one hand while hauling the boy back onto solid ground. "Are you okay?" he asked, kneeling beside the trembling child. The boy nodded, tears streaming down his cheeks. "Thank you," he whispered, clutching Dax's arm. Dax ruffled his hair reassuringly. "Stick close to your mom, all right? We've got this." As they resumed their ascent, the incident served as a stark reminder of the stakes. The group moved with renewed caution, their progress slow but steady. When they finally reached the waterfall, its thunderous roar drowned out all other sounds, masking their approach. Leora examined the cascading water closely, searching for the entrance Elder Mira had described. After several tense minutes, she spotted a faint outline, a narrow opening concealed behind the curtain of water. "There!" she exclaimed, pointing excitedly. "We need to cross quickly before anyone sees us." One by one, they braved the icy spray, slipping through the opening into a cavern bathed in ethereal light. Inside, the air was warm and humid, a stark contrast to the freezing temperatures outside. Stalactites hung from the ceiling like frozen daggers, and a network of tunnels branched off in multiple directions. At the center of the chamber stood a towering obelisk engraved with ancient symbols, pulsating faintly with energy. "This must be it," Leora murmured, approaching the obelisk reverently. She placed her hand on its surface, feeling a gentle vibration beneath her palm. "It feels alive." Before anyone could respond, the ground trembled violently, throwing them off balance. Dust rained from the ceiling as cracks spiderwebbed across the walls. Panic rippled through the group as the source of the disturbance became clear. The sanctuary was collapsing. "Everyone, get to the tunnels!" Dax shouted, ushering people toward the exits. "Find stable ground." Leora hesitated, unwilling to abandon the obelisk. "No, wait. This is important. We can't leave it behind." "Leora, we don't have time," Dax snapped, grabbing her arm. "If we stay here, we'll all die." Reluctantly, she allowed him to pull her away, tears streaming down her face as they fled into one of the tunnels. Behind them, the obelisk shattered, releasing a burst of blinding light that illuminated the entire cavern. The explosion propelled debris in every direction, sealing off the entrance and trapping them inside. For a moment, silence reigned, broken only by the sound of labored breathing. Then, gradually, the survivors began to assess their situation. The tunnel they occupied appeared structurally sound, but it stretched endlessly into darkness, offering no immediate escape route. "We're trapped," someone muttered, voicing the collective despair. "Not yet," Leora countered, her voice firm despite the quiver of fear lingering within her. "There has to be another way out. We'll find it, together." Dax placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder, meeting her gaze with unwavering determination. "Then let's start looking." As they ventured deeper into the labyrinthine tunnels, the weight of their predicament settled heavily upon them. Hope flickered like a fragile flame, sustained only by the unyielding bond between them. Whatever lay ahead, whether salvation or doom, they would face it side by side, bound by love, courage, and the unshakable belief that their fight was far from over. The tunnels seemed endless, their walls glistening with moisture and strange bioluminescent moss casting an eerie glow. The air grew thicker, tinged with the scent of earth and minerals, as the group pressed onward. Leora led the way, her staff illuminating patches of darkness while Dax kept a vigilant watch for any signs of danger or potential exits. Despite their dire circumstances, there was an unspoken understanding among them. They had come too far to give up now. As they navigated deeper into the labyrinth, Leora began noticing faint carvings etched into the stone walls, symbols that mirrored those on the shattered obelisk. Her heart quickened as she traced one of the markings with her fingers. "These are ancient Valen runes," she whispered, turning to Dax. "They tell stories, warnings, perhaps. This place wasn't just a sanctuary, it was a vault meant to protect something." "Protect what?" he asked, his voice low but curious. She shook her head, her expression thoughtful. I'm not sure yet. But if we can decipher these symbols, they might lead us to safety, or answers. Their progress slowed as Leora paused frequently to study the carvings, piecing together fragments of meaning from the cryptic language. Meanwhile, the villagers worked together to clear obstacles and reinforce unstable sections of the tunnel. Though fear lingered in their eyes, their determination never wavered. They trusted Leora implicitly, drawing strength from her quiet resolve. Hours passed before they stumbled upon a massive chamber at the heart of the maze. Unlike the narrow tunnels they traversed, this space was vast and cathedral-like, its ceiling lost in shadow. At its center stood a pedestal holding a crystalline orb, pulsating softly with a warm, golden light. The moment Leora laid eyes on it, she felt a pull, a connection so profound it took her breath away. "That's it," she murmured, stepping closer. "This is what the obelisk was guarding." Dax followed cautiously, his hand resting on the hilt of his weapon. "What is it?" "It's called the Ether Core," she explained, her voice filled with awe. "An artifact older than our kingdom itself. Legend says it holds the essence of creation, the very spark that brought life to our world. If we can harness its power, we could reshape the future." "But legends aren't always true," Dax countered, his brow furrowed. "Are you sure about this? What if it does more harm than good?" Leora hesitated, torn between hope and caution. Then she remembered Elder Myra's words, "Trust your instincts." Taking a deep breath, she reached out and placed her hands on the orb. For a split second, nothing happened. Then, a surge of energy coursed through her, filling her mind with visions, images of stars being born, oceans forming, and civilizations rising and falling. It was overwhelming, yet strangely comforting. When the vision faded, Leora opened her eyes to find the orb glowing brighter, its light spreading throughout the chamber. The ground trembled again, but this time, instead of collapsing, new pathways emerged, tunnels leading upward toward the surface. "It's showing us the way out," she said, her voice steady despite the whirlwind of emotions swirling inside her. "Come on, let's go." With renewed hope, the group followed the illuminated paths, climbing higher and higher until they finally broke through to the surface. The sight that greeted them was breathtaking, a hidden valley surrounded by towering peaks, untouched by time or conflict. Verdant fields stretched as far as the eye could see, dotted with vibrant flowers and crystal-clear streams. In the distance, a cluster of ancient ruins hinted at a long-forgotten civilization. "We made it," Dax said, his tone laced with disbelief. He turned to Leora, grinning widely. "Looks like your mad plan worked after all." She laughed, tears of relief streaming down her face. "Against all odds, huh? Maybe we're luckier than we thought." The villagers erupted into cheers, embracing one another as the weight of their ordeal lifted. For the first time in days, they allowed themselves to celebrate, reveling in the beauty of their newfound haven. Fires were lit, songs were sung, and stories were shared under the starlit sky. But even amidst the joy, Leora couldn't shake the feeling that their journey was far from over. She approached Dax later that night, finding him sitting by a small fire, staring into the flames. "What happens next?" she asked, sitting beside him. He glanced at her, his green eyes reflecting the flickering light. "We rebuild," he said simply. "This place, it's perfect. We can create something better here, something free from the chains of tradition and fear. Something worth fighting for." "And my father?" she asked quietly. "The kingdom." Dax sighed, reaching for her hand. "That's your call, Leora. You're still their princess, whether you like it or not. But whatever decision you make, I'll stand by you. Always." Her heart swelled with gratitude and love. "Thank you, Dax. For everything." The days that followed were spent fortifying their sanctuary, repairing the ruins, and establishing a community built on trust and equality. Word spread quickly among neighboring villages, and soon others joined them, drawn by tales of freedom and unity. Together, they forged a new society, one that honored the past while embracing change. Meanwhile, back in the capital city, King Valor faced mounting unrest. News of the rebellion, and the survival of his daughter, had ignited whispers of dissent among his people. Faced with growing opposition, he realized that clinging to outdated traditions would only hasten his downfall. Reluctantly, he issued a decree offering amnesty to those who had fled, including Leora and Dax, in exchange for peace talks. When the invitation reached the sanctuary, Leora knew it was time to confront her father. Accompanied by Dax and a delegation of villagers, she returned to the palace, ready to negotiate terms that would ensure lasting harmony. The meeting was tense but ultimately fruitful, culminating in a historic agreement that granted autonomy to the outer regions and abolished oppressive laws. In the years that followed, Leora became a symbol of hope and progress, bridging the gap between old and new. Dax remained by her side, his unwavering support earning him a place in the hearts of the people. Together, they ruled not as monarchs, but as partners guiding their world toward a brighter future. And so, against all odds, the alien princess and the human soldier found their happy ending, not in a fairy tale castle, but in the promise of a better tomorrow. Their love, tested by trials and triumphs, proved stronger than any obstacle, lighting the way for generations to come.